Hi, I'm Aura with some other people close, and I'm the host of Collective Mind, and my memory is worse than I thought, and I want to update about that because I'm having some pretty significant realizations about it. So, yeah. So I've talked some about my memories and awareness and stuff before in various contexts. The way that it comes up the most is the fact that I am a host who is always at least co-conscious. So since I have been host, I am always around the front. I watch or do everything that happens in the front, and I therefore at least thought that I had very, very, very little amnesia because of it. I thought that I basically only had amnesia about my childhood, and occasionally, if a gatekeeper for some reason had to take a memory from me, I did know that that happened. I think I've mentioned that before. But I'm going to go into some more detail in general about what I know about my memory now. So, childhood, what I know is still basically the same, but I'll go over it anyway, in case I haven't gone over some of it well enough or recently enough or whatever, or in case you just don't know to have it all in one place. I was not host in childhood until we were 13, and I didn't exist as myself yet. That would have been before a split that resulted in the version of me who became host, who, as far as I know, is the same version of me I am now. I don't know of any splits or anything that have happened since then for me. But my memories of childhood are very, very, very few, and I think largely, if not entirely, not my memories. I think none of them are things I would have experienced as myself because, like I said, I split at least once, for sure once that I know of since then, to become host. But I also think some of those things that I think I remember are things that I have heard people tell me so many times, and or have been around the front when someone else remembered it in enough detail that I kind of feel like I remember it, if that makes sense. Almost like the way you can think you remember something if you've seen a picture of it and heard the story over and over. But if I was close enough when someone remembered something and was talking about it, and I got some like bleed from them about the details of it, even if they didn't say it out loud, especially if that happened before I knew about the system, that could kind of feel like my memory if that information didn't get taken away or anything since then. So I kind of feel like my childhood memories are all in that category, and they are very, very short, specific memories that I think I could count on one hand. And it'll be a very, very specific, like, mostly one tiny part of one interaction that I don't remember any details of any of the context, even if I know generally, like, that was the day that we moved into that house or whatever. I don't remember any of that. I'll remember one piece of one interaction. Like, that's an example of one of the memories, obviously without any detail, but things like that. And I know, like, basic information about myself and my life and stuff, like an outline. Like, if someone gave me an outline of, this is your name, this is how old you are, this is where you live, these are the major people in your life, these are the major life events that have happened. Like, I knew I had braces, I knew, like, about an injury that I had as a kid, I knew, like, I knew where I was, I knew the major people in my life and what those relationships were, not of, like, trauma related stuff. I know more of that now. But I also had like procedural memory, so I knew how to do things that we had learned how to do. I knew how to read and write, and like when we first got a phone and when we started using computers and stuff like that, I knew how to do all those things. And I like had those memories when I became host. And we still largely don't have amnesia about procedural things and less amnesia about basic information about our life. We do have alters who won't have that basic information. They are very, very unlikely to be frequent fronters. They tend to be fragments and they tend to be almost exclusively deep inside, but they will occasionally front for a very brief period and be confused and not know like major information about us and our life. But that's not very common, and those alters don't front very often. And very, very rarely we will have alters front in a similar situation, but with like procedural memory where they won't know like how to use Discord or how to use our phone or things like that. But again, that's pretty uncommon for us, especially with frequent fronters. That's not a thing. So Josh doesn't need to be around the front when I learn how to do something for him to know how to do it. When I became host, like the next chunk of time is from 13 when I became host to the point where I learned about the system, which I'm calling discovery. So 13 to discovery, I was host with multiple co-hosts, most if not that entire time, and with Michael at the time as functionally primary protector, basically always around the front, hovering, stepping in regularly when he needed to, and very, very heavily influencing what I knew and what I thought about the things that I knew and all of that. I think I have always been in and around the front since transitioning to being host. I think there might have been a little bit at the very beginning of that relating to some trauma stuff where I wasn't like completely host yet, where I know I have some memories from during that time, but I don't think I have all of them. I think I have some full blackouts from that. But since like finishing that transition into being host at 13, I think I have always been in or around the front since then. I'm not positive about that, but I think that's true. I did have memories taken from me often, though, and I think that happened, I think now that that happened much more often than I used to think that it did. But I know absolutely for a fact that I have had memories taken from me even in real time by gatekeepers. I have had that happen in real time while I am talking to someone and have them like watch me no longer have the information about the conversation we were in the middle of having. So I know that that happens, and I think it happens, especially before I knew about the system. I think it happened like a lot. So that would be gatekeepers specifically actively taking memories from me. And then now I'm still in or around the front all the time. As far as I know, technically I could also be wrong about that. I don't think I am. And I have had other alters who have more like access, especially to our inner world, than me, also think that that's true. So I think it is at least very close to being true, but I do think that's still accurate. I still probably have memories actively taken a lot, especially parts of memories. So like details of, like I might remember that we were having a flashback, but not the details of what the flashback was, or at least not like the emotions or the physical sensations or any of that that might have bled through from another alter during a flashback. Even if I remember that we had a flashback and what it was about, like if I know what that trauma is already, I might remember even that much. I might know this alter had this flashback about this thing, but not be connected to it anymore and not remember anything that might have bled through from it. But I also think that I have more day-to-day, like, automatic amnesia despite being around the front constantly than I used to realize. I think I lose details about basically everything, especially if they are emotional at all. I think I have very, very, very bad memories about specifics in my life. So I think I essentially have a lot of dissociative amnesia that's automatic in the sense that if my brain decides I don't actively need access to that information anymore, then I don't hold on to it. So if that would be better for someone else to hold, especially if someone else already also holds it and my memory of it is redundant, or like that would especially be if it was really emotional or stressful in any way, or just generally if it's not like a necessary enough piece of information or whatever. But I started realizing very specifically I was having things pointed out to me that were important, like they weren't minor details of things that would make sense to just forget with normal forgetting, but they were very stressful and emotional. And I fully had no memory that it had happened at all. And it, like, multiple conversations about something over a period of time and fully believing that we have never talked about that level of amnesia. And I've been having a whole, like, journey essentially of trying to get past a lot of those denial mechanisms, because that's what I think a lot of that is inherently. But also I think there's an automatic mechanism in my brain for me as host to not hold on to like stress and emotional stuff, because I think my brain thinks it makes me better at being host. I don't actually think that's true. I think that it makes me make worse decisions if I don't have help or like other external things reminding me, because I think I end up being in denial more easily and like minimizing the impact of things more easily, because I genuinely can't remember how bad it was until I'm experiencing it again. And I think there's a level of like, I can't really remember what any emotions are like when I'm not feeling them, if that makes sense. Like, and some of that I know can make sense just in general for like depressive stuff. Like when I feel depressed, I can't really remember what it's like to not feel depressed, and I don't really believe that I'll ever not feel depressed again and all of that. And I know that that's a thing, just separately on its own. But I can so easily minimize like the impact that I know something will have on me to like a ridiculous extent, and for something that like I just made that same mistake yesterday, and I will think, no, this time it's worth it, and I was just like, I was overreacting yesterday and it wasn't actually that bad, and I'll convince myself so easily because I don't actually remember how bad it was. And I'm just like, no, like I just overreacted and I just didn't get out of bed for 5 hours yesterday because of it, but like I could have, I just didn't. And that's not true. And especially if I'm doing something that's going to cause problems, but it feels like it will help a smaller problem that I'm already experiencing, because then that's real to me, because the thing I'm already experiencing, like I'm feeling that right now, that's real. I remember what that feels like because I'm feeling it right now. And I can't like accurately weigh it against other things that I'm not already experiencing. So And that goes for things that will be worse and things that will be better. Like, I have a hard time choosing to, like, take medicine that will immediately, if not nearly immediately, make me feel better, because I don't really believe that it will do that, even if it does it regularly, like every time or close to every time that I do it, or at least has a pretty good chance. That's a big part of Josh's job now, is to, like, kind of coach me through those things and tell me to do it anyway. But the flip side of that is I will have, and Josh helps with this too, but I'll have a really hard time considering how much worse something could become, even if what I'm doing is, like, trying to make something better. So if I'm struggling with something, let's say emotionally, and I want to try to do something that I think will help emotionally, but that same thing will, like, trigger physical symptoms, like cause a flare-up with her physical disability, it's not like, I feel like I'm choosing to feel better for a little bit emotionally and to feel a little bit worse physically, and that feels like a trade-off that makes sense to me in the moment, because I don't remember how bad it will feel physically, but also because I don't remember how bad I feel emotionally when I feel that bad physically. So not only is it not worth the trade-off, but I actually end up feeling worse emotionally too, so it doesn't help. And I'm having to essentially just really trust, mostly Josh, a lot when he tells me things, even if they don't feel true, because I am so bad at that. And he is thankfully a lot less bad at it, but is the type of thing that started making me realize how much, like, not total blackout amnesia, but how much general, just, like, significant details were being lost very, very quickly. Like, I could the next day or later the same day make, like, very poor decisions because of that kind of amnesia, but also things that are a lot closer to blackout amnesia about something, because it's just the entire memory of the thing being gone, but it doesn't feel like that. Like, I don't in real time, like, ever experience, wait, what am I doing? This wasn't where I was. Like, as though I am just waking up somewhere that I don't remember being. I don't experience that in real time. And that's what I associate with, like, blackout amnesia, where it's like I blacked out and then woke up. Or if I went inside our inner world, are the two things that I would consider actual, like, that level of blackout amnesia. And I would need to be filled in afterwards and everything. But the fact that there are significant, like, conversations and things that I have no memory of is making me realize that I have something closer to that than I thought. That, as far as I can tell, isn't being actively done by any of our gatekeepers. Some of it is, but these specific things that I'm talking about aren't. And some of these things weren't even just taken from me, which is also stressful. And there could be an alter we don't know about who is doing this, or an alter we do know about who we don't know is doing this, but it doesn't seem that way, at least currently, so we are working off of the assumption that it's an automatic denial/amnesia mechanism that is mostly, but not entirely, for me. But it's not noticeable to me in real time, which is a big problem, because I don't know that I am not remembering and therefore not implementing things about major stressful conversations I had, about boundaries, or, like, all kinds of, like, important things that I needed to be actively doing stuff about, but I can't because I don't remember that the conversation happened at all, or anything about it. And most of those, it doesn't come back to me when I'm reminded of it at all either. So I'm trying to do a lot more of writing things like that down somewhere. I have a spot that I'm keeping all of those things. And I am trying to really stay on top of that, especially about things that are important that I need to do stuff about. But with a lot of the smaller day-to-day stuff, it's mostly Josh helping a lot, and some of it is reminders and stuff like that. Generally, as far as like time awareness category stuff, like when we need to take meds at a specific time, for example. But most of it isn't noticeable to me, and relevant stuff will usually be accessible to me or usually someone else if we need it. So like, I won't remember that thing happened, but Josh or somebody else will and can like handle the situation with the context of whatever happened. Some of these things that wasn't true, so like I said, that's why we're trying to write a lot of those things down. But generally speaking, when I don't have memories of something, but we need access to the memories to act on them in some way, somebody else will have access to those memories and be able to front or get really close to fill me or whoever's fronting in on the memory, or at least like inform how we handle the situation, even if they don't share information about the memory itself. Just they make the decision based on the context that they know, and they either front and do that or tell whoever's fronting, I know what's going on, do this, you know? So that's what would happen a lot, like with protectors and stuff, and trauma-related memories of situations that were dealing with trauma. If whoever was fronting didn't know about it, that's how those would have been handled. So it would make sense that some things are still handled like that. But yeah, I'm realizing I spend a lot more time emotionally dissociated than I realized. I have fairly short, usually like kind of acute periods of processing stuff emotionally, and then I'll be pretty thoroughly cut off from it for a while, which I think helps me function. And for most of those things, I still am aware about the things that the emotions are attached to, and aware what emotions I have about them, but they're really, really muffled. It's like they're on the other side of a wall. And I could, in most cases, intentionally trigger myself to feel them intently right then. That happens, like if I talk about them in therapy, that'll often happen. But, or if something just generally triggers that thing in some way, or if a different alter who's also struggling with it or struggling with something similar ends up around the front and is really emotional about it, stuff like that. But generally speaking, I feel really emotionally disconnected a lot of the time, and I didn't realize that before, because it doesn't feel like, it's different than when I feel numb in like a depressive way. And I don't know if I just assumed that that's how it would feel no matter what. And there are a lot of times where like it gives me an opportunity to not be constantly thinking about big things that I need to slowly process emotionally. And because of that, it lets me do other stuff. It lets me do productive things that I need to get done, but it also lets me have actual breaks where I am just watching something, listening to music, whatever, and not having to actively constantly be processing something emotionally, because I don't think I can even physically handle that. Like it's really, really hard on our body, on top of everything emotionally, obviously, to be that overwhelmed emotionally all the time. And I can't very easily feel smaller amounts of big emotions, I guess. So I'm kind of either all out breakdown active processing for a little bit, or just kind of like dissociated from it, separated from it, but I know what it is and I know why I'm like having those feelings and stuff. But I'm not constantly like surrounded by it. It's like it's off to the side, you know? Um, I'm starting to more heavily dissociate, so I think I should try to wrap this up. But that's the whole that's everything from the outline that I planned for this anyway, so it works out. I hope this video was helpful or interesting in some way. I am glad that I am learning more about this. I think it is helping me to be able to be a better host, but also helping with some just other life stuff in general. It's been a hard process, but I think it's good and helpful overall. We have all this stuff below me linked in the description if you want to look at any of it. And we will link some more videos and playlists and all of that on the screen. And as always, special thanks to all of our current patrons. And I think that is everything for our new, much shortened outro. So thank you for watching. Bye!